Well, here it is, the latest movie from M. Night Shyamalan about a magic beach. And with every M. Night Shyamalan movie that comes out, I'm always curious if he's managed to return to making a good movie. My answer with this movie is no. It's kind of ironic that this movie is called Old because that's really what this is at this point. It's all getting very old. The same mistakes over and over again, movie after movie. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Now, I've covered some of M. Night Shyamalan's movies in the past, so before you start thinking that the only reason I hate this movie is just to join in on the dog pile that's been going on for the past 10, 15 years, that's actually not true. I really liked Unbreakable and The Sixth Sense. I also enjoyed Split, which makes it unfortunate that he didn't end that trilogy on a good note with Glass, because that movie is, well, I'll get to that later. His other movies I didn't really enjoy. Some I downright hated for various reasons. But this movie is called Old, which is based off the graphic novel Sandcastle. And it's about a magical beach that makes people old. Like I said before, this movie features a lot of the same old stuff, like bad dialogue, multiple references to Philadelphia, M. Night Shyamalan casting himself in the movie, an inflated ending that isn't nearly as impactful as it thinks it is. Anyways, the movie starts off with this family arriving at this resort, where they are welcomed by the staff and given drinks.
Can you believe I found this online?
Yes, I can. It's a resort. There's a lot of them online. In fact, you're not going to believe this, but there are entire websites dedicated to finding them. I mean, what kind of a line is that? Honey, can you believe I found this on the internet? You know, the place people go to find pretty much anything. I mean, has this character been frozen for the past 25 years? Wait until she finds out about Amazon. Honey, you're not gonna believe this, but I bought this on the World Wide Web yesterday, and someone just dropped it off today! Anyways, the kids, Trent and Maddox, meet the nephew of the resort manager, who becomes friends with Trent, and they begin writing each other letters in code. So the resort manager, M. Night Shyamalan, takes them along with another family to a secret beach. And he's like, yeah, just call me when you want to leave, otherwise I'll be back at 5 to pick you up. So he gives them a ton of food and tells them just to keep walking through that giant rock formation to get to the beach. Anyways, they're all having a good time on the beach, except the parents, Guy and Priska, who are planning on getting divorced after this vacation. I guess this is like one last hurrah as a family. God, that would be an awkward family meeting. Imagine that. Hey kids, we have some bad news. Your mother and I no longer love each other. We're getting divorced. But before we do, we're taking you on one last family vacation! Who's excited? I'm not seeing any smiles. So then Maddox recognizes a popular rap artist on the beach.
Oh my god! That's mid-size sedan!
Yes, mid-sized sedan. Honestly, sometimes it's like, I know it's trying to be funny, but it's just stupid. So mid-sized sedan, along with this girl, have been on this beach for a while, ever since, I don't know, I guess the sun came up. Anyways, while the kids are playing, they find her dead body floating around, and they're kind of suspicious, like, does this guy with the nosebleed have anything to do with this dead woman? I mean, obviously, he's very upset.
Oh, damn.
Anyways, Charles assumes that mid-sized sedan killed her, and while they're all trying to figure everything out, the kids start growing, and Charles's mother dies. So they're like, okay, we could deal with one dead body, but two? I think it's time we call off the beach day, kids. I mean, let's be real here. One dead body, we can kind of, just kind of kick sand over it and just ignore it. But two, that's going to be distracting. It's pretty gross. The only problem is that their cell phones don't work. So they figured they'll just walk back. But every time they try to walk through the rock formation, they just get a splitting headache and just end up back on the beach. There's a bunch of other weird shit going on, like the kids notice something shiny off in the distance, and Charles just suddenly cuts mid-sized sedan's face only to find that his wound heals almost instantly. And this is basically most of the movie. No one knows what's going on. You as an audience member don't know what's going on. And for the most part, that's fine. I mean, that's what this is supposed to be. It's a mystery. You're not supposed to know until the end. And hopefully, that's when you get a satisfying answer. The kids start growing up really fast. There's some sort of reason behind why no one's hair or nails is growing.
Maybe it has to do with the fact that the cells in hair and nails are dead and they aren't reacting in the same way.
But who cares? So they discover that the dead girl's body has now completely decomposed to the point where it's all bones. And they're all like, wow, this is really scary. I mean, there's some kind of time warp going on. People are dying. But neither sets of parents seem to know where their kids are, which is kind of funny. You're on a secluded beach and now dead bodies are popping up. I don't know, I would assume that as a parent you'd want to keep an eye on your kids all the time. Well, the kids are off somewhere else on the beach, under some beach blankets, having sex and getting pregnant. So they come to the conclusion that it's the big rock surrounding the beach. It must be some sort of magic rock. And they can't walk back through the magic rock because their cells are aging. And, well, here, I'm just going to show you this explanation. And it's kind of funny because the expressions of the characters were very similar to mine while I was watching this.
If our cells are being affected, speeding up in their processes, then us trying to leave is like swimming to the surface too fast after being deep in the ocean. Our bodies can't reacclimate.
So they find out that they all won an online contest that they became aware of because it was advertised on a pharmacy receipt. So it's the pharmacies at it again. Goddamn CVS, I'll tell you every time. Okay, so Kara gives birth, but the baby dies because, you know, it didn't get any attention for 2 seconds, which would be like having a baby left alone for, what, a few weeks? And then the baby just turns into bones. Crystal starts talking about an old boyfriend she had.
When I was your age, I was in love with a man. His name was Giuseppe. He wasn't very handsome and I left him. For some reason, I think about him a lot. Leave me alone.
I was actually really interested in hearing more about what happened with Giuseppe. Charles slowly starts acting crazy, and suddenly he's on top of mid-sized Sedan, stabbing him. And it looks like mid-sized Sedan is dead. So Jaren comes up with the idea, hey everybody, I peaked in high school. That's when I was on the swim team. Maybe I can swim around the rock to the other side of the beach and get us out of here. But unfortunately, as soon as you get too far away from the beach, you pass out. So he passes out and dies. And the same thing happens to Kara when she tries to climb up over the rock. She gets to a certain height and then passes out. So wait, is it that you get a certain distance from the rock? Or is it that you get a certain distance from the sand on the beach? Because I mean, she's right up against the rock, climbing. She's not moving away from the rock, she's just moving up the, you know what, whatever. And the others start succumbing to various medical conditions that they've always had, which went away while they were here, but suddenly came back. Trent comes up with the conclusion that they're being monitored all the time.
Maddox, that's a camera. They're recording us.
Okay, I'm sorry, that's ridiculous. Why would he come to that conclusion? All you can see is a light. Why would you assume that's a camera? Now, here are some things about the movie that I think they did really well. The aging of the kids was very well done. They did a perfect job of finding multiple actors that resembled the kids enough that made it look pretty believable. Also, from a cinematography standpoint, it's very well photographed. I mean, it's a beautiful location, which helps. But still, it's a really nice looking film. Even the scenes at night where really there's just a campfire, it looked great. Anyways, at this point in the movie, it's really just a waiting game. The other characters eventually die, and Guy and Prisca work out their marital problems in a way that's pretty unsatisfactory. Seriously, like apparently they had these issues and she cheated on him, but in the end, they make up because they're so old at that point, they just kind of forgot about their problems. Which, to be fair, I guess you could argue, well, you know, that's love. If you're really in love with someone, you forgive and you forget and blah, blah, blah. Which, yeah, okay, I can see that. But at the same time, I wanted a bit better of a resolution to that, but in the end, honestly, I didn't really care that much. I wasn't that invested. Honestly, at this point in the movie, I'm just waiting for everyone to die so that we can get to the end and we can finally find out why all of this is happening. Trent and Maddox come to the conclusion that they're never gonna get off the beach, and Trent remembers that Idlib wrote him a secret message that he never looked at. So he decodes the message and it says, "My uncle doesn't like the coral." And this is it, folks. This is the answer. Apparently, swimming through the coral stops the rock's magic aging powers or something, and they're able to get away. Why does it do this? Who the knows? It just does. And here we go, the big twist. Apparently, this resort is run by a pharmaceutical company, and they bring people with certain medical conditions to the resort, give them experimental drugs for their conditions without them knowing, and then take them to the beach so that they can monitor how long the drugs last over a lifetime. That's it. And you're probably wondering, how did they even find out about the beach's magical powers in the first place? I mean, it's pretty hard to get off the beach once you're on it, unless by chance you swim through the coral. Well, you can keep sucking on that for a while because you're never going to find out. Now, you probably still have some questions and would like answers to those questions, like how the rock even speeds up time in the first place. Well, too bad, you're not going to find out. It's just like that. Why does the coral stop the magic powers of the rock from making people pass out? Seems pretty arbitrary. Yes, it does, but too bad. It's just like that. Once they got through the coral, how did they find their way back to the resort? Look, you're asking too many logical questions, okay? This movie isn't about why the people on the beach were aging. It's about why the people were taken to the beach in the first place, and I think the answer is pretty straightforward. Big Pharma wanted to test drugs and save lives by killing innocent people. A lot of people. So many, in fact, that there was a record kept, which you'd think at some point the families and friends of these missing people would inquire about what happened to them. I mean, yes, the cops show up at the end because the kids blew the lid off the whole thing, but at no point before that did anyone say, hey, gee, the last we heard from them is that they were going on vacation to this specific resort. I guess they just died there. Naturally. Now, a lot of people associate M. Night Shyamalan with the twist ending, which makes sense. It's something that he uses a lot. And in a few movies, I think he did it very well. But in others, I just felt it was cheap. The Sixth Sense had probably one of the biggest and most talked about twist endings in cinema history. Not only was it a shock to people watching the movie for the first time, but it really added to the emotional impact of the story. Unbreakable had a good ending that was not only a twist, but expanded on the relationship between the characters. But after that, I feel like M. Night went to the well one too many times. And by the time The Village had rolled around, I remember I predicted one of the twists just watching the trailer. I was sitting there watching it like, yeah, you know what, there's gonna be no monsters. Like, the monsters aren't real, they're gonna be faked for some reason. And that's when I realized something. As an audience member, I really wasn't interested in seeing his movies anymore. And the reason is because now I'm expecting a twist ending. So it's impossible for me to get invested in everything that's going on because I'm super skeptical. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, he's gonna pull some kind of twist at some point. And what if it's really shitty? What if it cheapens everything that's been established so far? So not only were the monsters not real, which I already expected coming into the movie, but at the end, there's this reveal that the whole thing took place during present day instead of 200 years ago, which the audience was led to believe. A twist which honestly I couldn't care less about. When it happened, I was just kind of like, okay. The Visit was another movie where as soon as they got to the part where they met the grandparents, I was just sitting there like, that's probably not their grandparents. So I'm already not buying what's being sold to me, which, in my opinion, is a really crappy viewing experience. Again, I feel it's impossible to get invested in the story that's being built when the whole time in the back of your mind, you're thinking, you know, everything that I've been led to believe so far could end up not being true or something else entirely. all for the sake of shock value, really. And that's what can happen when you try to trick your audience again and again and again. It's the boy who cried wolf. I don't trust the movie. Now, the ending of Split I enjoyed because it didn't change or take away from the movie I had just watched. It felt like an added bonus because it revealed that the whole story took place inside the Unbreakable universe. In my opinion, it felt like a return to form for Shyamalan, and I was actually really interested in seeing Glass, which would be the conclusion to the trilogy. But Glass turned out to be maybe the biggest Shyamalan twist of them all, because instead of ending a trilogy that so far I feel consisted of 2 decent movies with a satisfying conclusion, he instead decided to completely destroy it with what is easily the most disappointing film he's ever made. I hate this movie so much, I'm not even going to spend the time making an entire video about it. It just really sucks that another stellar performance by James McAvoy was wasted on such a piece of garbage with one of the most anticlimactic endings I've ever seen in my life. And a twist ending so incredibly lame, it makes me wonder, why can't you just make a movie where you focus on building good characters and a good story without feeling the need to pull a rabbit out of your hat at the last minute? This is the thing about writing mysteries. The resolution to the mystery has the ability to make or break the entire thing, more so than in a typical drama, because the audience wants to see the mystery solved. That's why they're following along. And if the mystery isn't resolved in a satisfying way, you're gonna piss off your audience. They've been invested throughout the movie because they want to know what's happening and why it happened. And if at some point you say, okay, I'm gonna tell you what's happening. It was the trees the entire time. I mean, how did you expect people to react? This guy had the main characters running away from the wind. And obviously some people found that satisfying because I've seen people try and defend the movie by saying it was intended to be a B movie since the beginning. Even M. Night Shyamalan said that a few days before the movie was released. And if it is true that this was meant to be a B movie from the beginning, then I think this movie sucks even as a B movie because it doesn't look or feel like a B movie, and it definitely wasn't marketed as one. In an interview with Vulture in 2019, Shyamalan said that audiences couldn't see the self-conscious humor in The Happening, but that it wasn't their fault. It was inconsistent. Well, up to that point, M. Night Shyamalan was known for making mystery sci-fi thrillers. So of course the audience went in expecting the same kind of movie. They had no reason not to. If you've been making serious movies all along and then suddenly want to make a movie that doesn't take itself seriously, that has to be extremely evident to the point where there is no doubt in anyone's mind watching it. And a good way to start is by making that known well in advance through the marketing of the movie. Obviously, the marketing wasn't up to M. Night Shyamalan, which is why it's even more important to make the audience aware of what kind of movie you're trying to make through the style and look of the film. When Robert Rodriguez made Planet Terror, it was blatantly obvious that he was making an action exploitation film. It was in every single element of the movie, from the marketing, writing, direction, cinematography, color grading, the music, down to adding in the appearance of deterioration of the actual film, which was common with old exploitation films. Now, I don't believe M. Night Shyamalan is ever going to make another Sixth Sense, and that's not entirely his fault. When that movie came out, nobody saw that coming. The average person didn't know who M. Night Shyamalan was, nor did he have the filmography where people could go into that movie with any type of expectations based on his past work. And it's pretty much impossible to replicate the impact that it had on movie audiences at the time. But besides the twist ending, I still think it was a good movie that had an intriguing concept on its own. There's obviously people that like his movies, and that's great. If you're a fan of his, then I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong. You like what you like. And look, he's a filmmaker who's obviously had a lot of success in the past. If it wasn't critical, it was commercial. And I think that's worth noting. But that's pretty much it for this one. As usual, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all next time. It must be some sort of magic rock, and they can't walk back through the rock. It's not a boulder, it's a rock.
Maddox, that's a camera.
Why would you be like, oh yeah, That light right there, that's a camera. No. I have done some after dark shooting in my day, and I'm telling you right now, that's a camera.
His name was Giuseppe. He wasn't very handsome, and I left him.
What? My name is Giuseppe. You not liking my name? You don't like that? I don't make a lot of money.